Hello everyone. Welcome to another new day. Today is Tuesday, March 9th. We're talking about trapezoids today. As you can tell, I've got a bunch of trapezoids on the screen. This is a kind of a odd looking shape, right? Looks like the roof of a house, or I don't know, the Pizza Hut sign or something. Not a very common shape, which is why if I had said trapezoids, it may not have immediately rung a bell for you, but we're going to talk about this shape and, of course, learn the formula and how to find perimeter and area of trapezoids. Trapezoids only is the lesson today. All right, let's begin with a warm-up. The warm-up is going to be something you already know, actually, finding the perimeter of all of these trapezoids. These are all different types of trapezoids, including this one that's kind of turned around. It's still a trapezoid. Okay, and you need to find the perimeter. Perimeter is something I don't really need to help you with. Remember, perimeter is just the outside lengths of the shape added up, the total of all the lengths. So you would do 5 plus 7 plus 10 plus 7, right? What would that be? That'd be, uh, well, 5 plus 10 is 15 plus 14. 15 plus 14, it's terrible, terrible handwriting. 15 plus 14 is 29. So the perimeter of trapezoid number 1 is 29 inches. And this is what you would do for every single one. Some of these trapezoids have some extra numbers that you don't need that you don't need to pay attention to. For example, on trapezoid number 3, you just want the outside lengths, remember? So really this 8 is unnecessary. And same thing for number 4. There's an extra number. You only need the outside lengths. The 10 in the middle is unnecessary. It's unnecessary for perimeter, right? Perimeter, you just find the lengths of everything on the outside. When it comes to area, it's a little bit more complicated than that. All right, so your objective for today with the notes is to make sure you know how to do perimeter and area of trapezoids. Okay, so let's first begin with the parts of a trapezoid. This is a unique shape that needs some specially labeled parts. So in your notes, you have an empty trapezoid, a giant empty trapezoid. The first thing I want you to do is to draw a dotted line like this from the bottom to the top, top to bottom in that trapezoid. It can be anywhere. You can draw it right here, right down the middle is fine. Doesn't matter. Make sure it's a dotted line. Remember, we tend to use dotted lines to represent the height. That's going to be an important part. Now, on either side of the height, so at the bottom here, under the height, this is going to be called base 1. Base 1. At the top of our dotted line, right across from base 1, is base 2. Okay, so these three parts are important. Make sure you write this down. We have the height, which is a dotted line, and on either side, why did I write base 3? On either side, we've got base 1 and base 2. It is important that you label it this way. This length and this length, these are not the bases. The bases, and how do you tell which two are the bases? Because a trapezoid could be turned all kinds of different funky ways. The bases are the two lines that are parallel. You see how these are parallel lines, meaning they don't meet. They're exactly kind of going in the same direction. The two parallel lines are the bases. If you notice the left and the right here, this line and this line, they're not parallel. You see that? You see how eventually if you kept going they would meet? Those slanted parts of the trapezoid are not the bases. They're not called anything. It's height and then the base 1 and base 2 on either side. Honestly, I could have called the top as base 1 and the bottom as base 2. The number doesn't really matter as long as you know that those are the two bases. Okay, I think I've drilled that enough in your head. Those are the three things we need to solve for perimeter and area. Perimeter, as you already know, is just to add up all the sides, right? You did that in the warm-up just now. That's just adding up the outsides. Area is the one that's a little trickier. There's more to it, as you can see. Yes, just looking at that formula is probably hurting some of y'all's heads right now. But let's talk about piece by piece. The area of the trapezoid is area A equals, of course, base 1, we call that B1, plus base 2, we call that B2. That's what those symbols stand for. That belongs in a parentheses because they are grouped together, base 1 plus base 2, multiplied by the height. All of that is going to be divided by 2. And that's how you build that area formula. So which is what I have right here. Or there's another way of writing this, and really the other way of writing it just applies to this 2 part of it. You see how that's dividing by 2? Well, dividing by 2 is the same thing as multiplying by half, so we've written that formula in 2 separate ways. It's your choice which way you prefer to look at, which one just looks better to you, and kind of maybe stick with that. But they're the same thing. Remember when we were talking about triangles? And on triangles we had, for a triangle the area is base times height divided by 2. Or the other way of writing that was area equals half, 1/2 base times height. And we talked about how those are both the same. Same thing with the trapezoids here. Divide by 2 or multiply by half, it's the same thing. Now, yes, this is a giant formula, and it sounds tricky right now, but let's put all of this together in some examples. So follow closely as I do the examples. The examples are important in understanding. We'll do the easy part first, which is perimeter. Perimeter is just adding up the outside. So that's going to be 6 plus 8 plus 7. And what about this side that's not been given? But they do have those hash marks. You see the hash mark for the 7 right here, and they put it over here as well. That means both of those sides are the exact same, so it's 7 as well. So let's add up the outside. 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 7. That is, why don't y'all do that in your head and then compare with me in a second. 6 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8. 7 plus 7 is 14. Plus the 6 is 20, and then plus the 8. Okay, that was just my way of showing my work. It is 28. Perimeter is 28 centimeters, and I got that by adding up all of the sides. Okay, easy. Easy part is done. Now let's talk about the area. Area formula is, remember, base 1 plus base 2 times the height divided by 2. As you notice, guys, I always write that basic formula so that it's easy for me to plug numbers in. Okay, so what is base 1 and what's base 2? Remember, it's these two numbers that are the parallel lines across from each other. So that would be 8 plus 6 in parentheses times the height. Remember, the height is always the dotted line, so it's 5.5. And I can put that in parentheses as well. All of that divided by 2. Okay, so make sure you followed along so far, because all I did was write the general formula and then I plugged in each number, where it belongs. That's all I've done. Writing that general formula helps guide you. Now, moving on, we just have to simplify this by doing PEMDAS in the right order. Remember, according to PEMDAS, we do parentheses. So let's do the parentheses that has something going on inside of it. The 8 plus 6. 8 plus 6 is 14. 14 times 5.5. All of that will be divided by 2. Now we do multiplication, the top part. The 14 times 5.5. That's going to be 20 and 7, 20 and 7. Okay, decimal goes there. So I have 77 on the top divided by 2. 77 divided by 2. There's just a lot of steps to it, but it's not too difficult. Let's see, 2 times 3 is 6. 1, 17. 2 times 8 is 16. That's a 1, 0, 5. 38.5. And we're going to do centimeters squared. Wow. So that was a lot of work, or several steps. But hopefully it was easy enough for you to follow along. I went from the original formula, plugged in the numbers, right? Those were the 2 bases. And then here's the height. I plugged in the height in that spot. And then the dividing by 2 part came in at the very end. Once all the numbers are plugged in, you just work it out following your PEMDAS step by step, simplify at the end, and you get 38.5 centimeters squared. Okay, so that's perimeter and area of the trapezoid. Let's try the other one. In fact, on that second one, why don't you try it by yourself first? Pause the video, try it by yourself just for a couple of minutes, and then you can hit play and compare it with me. Or you can hit play when you're stuck. Alright, if you've unpaused it. First, I'm solving for perimeter, which is adding everything up. So I have a 10 plus 16 plus 11 plus 9. When it comes to the perimeter, that 12 on the inside is irrelevant, unnecessary. Okay, so I'm going to add all those up. I get 46 centimeters. That is the perimeter of that shape. Okay, now the harder part, which is area. Remember, the area formula is base 1 plus base 2 in parentheses times the height, that's h for height, all of that divided by 2. And now I plug in. The key to plugging in is finding the right pieces. The height, dotted line, there's the height, that's 12. Either side of the height are the bases. So that can be base 1, that can be base 2. It doesn't matter which one is 1 and 2, as long as those are the 2 bases. Okay, so I'm going to work this way, just because that's where I have room. So I'm going to do 16 plus 9, right? That's base 1 and base 2, times the height, which is 12. All of that divided by 2. Okay, next part is to work out the 16 plus 9. 16 plus 9 is 25. So that is the base 1 and base 2. Multiply by the height. So this is our second step here. I'm just rewriting each step of the formula, guys. You should rewrite just so it keeps you on track. Don't just have the original thing written and then solve a bunch of math all over on the side. Stay organized. Obviously, you would probably be working downwards. I'm just working towards the left because that's where I have room. Now I will do 25 times 12, which happens to be, just because I've worked this out previously, 300. And then 300 dividing by 2 is the final piece. That's going to be 150. 300 divided by 2 is 150. Okay, so the area of the second trapezoid is 150 centimeters squared. Don't forget to put the square and write the units in the correct way. Alright, this is trapezoids, guys. Anything beyond this, we would just be getting repetitive. It's the same thing over and over and over again. Same formula, plug in numbers. It's important that you understand the basics and get a little practice. That's what your homework is going to be. You're going to practice using this formula. From here, we're going to build more onto this tomorrow. And good luck. See you tomorrow.